And I'm Olive Martini, and I am joined by Shelley Stratton today. She is an RN. She's also a certified yoga teacher. And Shelley's going to talk to us for the WOW Forum today about increasing positive health outcomes for caregivers. Welcome, Shelley.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. And all of those who are tuned in, thank you for your continued support from the Dungeness Health and Wellness Center, our free clinic. Also, a big thank you for this radio station allowing us to present here for our WOW Forum during the COVID. Today's topic is increasing positive health outcome for a caregiver. And I believe you're probably wondering, well, who is a caregiver? And I'd like to say at some point in your life, you may be a caregiver right now, but at some point in your life, and maybe multiple points throughout your life, you will find that you are providing care for someone else. Often becoming a caregiver role is not something that you have anticipated in doing. You become a caregiver someday when you didn't anticipate it, and that's usually how it happens. Here in the United States, at this particular time in this year, we have approximately, although the year isn't up, but so far the estimate is that we have 21.3% adults who are caregivers, and those people are having provided to an adult in their family or a child with special needs in the past 12 months. This total is actually 53 million plus adults who are caregivers right now. In 2015, there were 43.5 million caregivers. It has gone up significantly, probably due to our aging population. The COVID coming along also increased this number, as you can understand why. So how do you know you're a caregiver? Well, many ways. Maybe you don't even know. So let's go through some of that. I'll ask you some questions. Do you know someone you know who takes a parent to a doctor's visit on a regular basis? Or do you know someone who has taken over a sibling's job in the home, perhaps in bookkeeping or perhaps in paying bills, because they no longer can do that? And do you have someone in your community, perhaps a neighbor who can no longer drive and their family is not here? And so you are asked or you are willing to take them to the grocery store so they can buy their groceries. These are the forms of caregivers or the types of caregivers we have in our community and in our families. And this is what really makes up the backbone of caregiving. It's the unpaid family caregiver. And that includes your support from your neighborhood, from your community. And that is the backbone of where the caregivers come from. They are our support. And this can happen to you, and you can fall into this category at any time. You didn't need a job application. You didn't have to even be asked. It just could be that that's what happened to you. So on this level, it's probably if you're already there as a caregiver, and if it just happened, you feel very anxious, and you don't know what to do, and you don't even know who to call. So we're going to discuss some of those things today. But before we do that, it's kind of interesting about this month of October, I may say. We have a Cancer Awareness Month, Breast Cancer Awareness, so we have a format, a lot of information going out there. We also know that it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and there's a lot of information all over the place on that. And then there's also Earthquake Awareness Month, and actually, I did not know this until I saw it on Facebook yesterday, but there'll be sirens going off tomorrow to let us know to do a drill for earthquake awareness. And I had no idea about that. So here we are with 3 very significant things happening in October events, and we're being prepared by them or educated. But yet, in this community and many communities throughout the United States, there is no awareness for the actual caregiver. So everything that's put towards us is like, we didn't even know that this was ever going to happen. Or maybe we thought about it, but we didn't want to realize it, or we just put it aside. Because why? Because it's not happening at the present moment. So we'll just put everything aside. I think like everything else, though, it's very important in life to be prepared. So perhaps when we think about COVID right now, there were some things that obviously aren't very helpful, but there are some things that are very, very important and brought about maybe a closeness in our families and our friends and our community. It'd be a good time to think about that as we've learned new applications such as Zoom, such as probably FaceTime, or maybe we even upgraded our phones so that we could talk more clearly and have different applications to visit with family members or friends more often. So I think before we go into the role of the caregiver, we should ask ourselves, can we prepare for this time in our lives? And the answer to that is yes. We can perhaps make a meeting, and I would hope that you could make a meeting with family members, regardless of how many siblings or where they are throughout the United States. But asking who's going to take care of that parent when they're actually doing very well right now, all by themselves, but they have that fall and they break their hip, and now they need care 24 hours per day. Who's going to step in for that? And if you've had this meeting, perhaps one of you already knows who you are. But if you haven't had this meeting, you're all scattered and a lot of anxiety happens and you really don't know what to do. You may not even know that person's medications, who the doctor is, or you may not know anything about their community. So it's time to start looking into that as individuals, looking into our own family members and what we can do to help when that time comes and we become the caregiver. Get to know your siblings better. Are they on any medications? How is their health? How is their well-being at this time? And I think that's really important to go through with that. What about financial planning? Do you think about the finances? Are you going to be able, is the family going to be able to take care of a member if something happens? Do people have insurance or no insurance? So what are we going to do with all this information? Well, when the time comes, we may be, hopefully, we would be just a little bit less anxious and more prepared. We would have perhaps a written plan, which is really just a remarkable thing to do nowadays. And we have all this technology in front of us. We can email, we can text on the phone, we can have a document. We have so much that we can do to save us, to help us during this time, rather than feeling that you're completely lost, overwhelmed, and don't know really who to turn to. And that happens to a lot of our caregivers in the community. They have a lot of anxiety. They don't know what to do. There's no time to do everything. They don't know how to take care of one person and go to the next and be part of their family, which sometimes causes a lot of havoc within your own family system. Sometimes a lot of regret, sometimes a lot of anger, and sometimes a lot of sadness. So I think it's a time that just may be coming around the corner. We don't really know. So I'm going to listen to the drills tomorrow, but what are the chances of an earthquake? Probably a lot less slimmer than something happened within my own family that I will have to take care of. So I think it's time. I think it's time to look and to help everyone out. You're not alone. Obviously, we talked about the stats. 54 million people in the United States are caregivers. That seems like an awful large number. But that's the way it is. And so you know you're not alone. There's other people out there having the same situation. And what are we going to do? Now I'll go and talk about what can you do. So what if you're in the situation right now and you're very anxious, you're not sleeping at night, there's no one to help you, who can you really turn to? There are a number of places you can turn to, and I'll go through the community resources. But in a moment, just to think about where you can get information from ahead of time would be a doctor's office, getting in touch with the person, asking the person you're taking care of, or if you know them personally, what their medications are, getting that all settled in. And even contacting the hospital just in case you're going to have to go to the hospital, get all the paperwork ready, such as a advance directive. The hospital is a very good source here around the community to help us do that, to get our paperwork organized. Other sources on the community itself are organizations that I have made a list of, and that you will find this list on the website of the Dungeness Health and Wellness Center as well. But a few of those agencies that I can talk about now is the Dungeness Health and Wellness Center for sure, can be a resource for you for finding connections in the neighborhood, in your own neighborhood or your community. Also, the Peninsula College, if you don't know how to do certain things or certain procedures, you may find that there may be a class that you could take when you're sitting at home online, maybe be for free. So getting all that information even from the college is very, very important. So you can educate yourself, upgrade your skills. Maybe you've never been able to figure out what medicines are done at a certain time, or what if you have a feeding to do, how exactly would you do that feeding if it was a tube feeding. So talking a little bit more advanced care, maybe you feel like you're not capable of that, and that's okay too, because that's when you would be asking for help. That's when you're asking the doctor for help. Who do I turn to for this? Then you have a Visiting Nurses Association, and you also have your local hospice of Calm County and Port Jefferson County. so we have those resources within our community. Many times we're so overwhelmed we can't really think about who to ask or how to do that. And that's why we can even have a neighbor call a neighbor for help, or call a relative for help and help them decide. You can't do this all by yourself. You never could do this all by yourself. It's too much to expect. We're strong people. I'm strong, you're strong. But all of this is a lot to do. So please think about that. Don't put it all on your shoulders. Don't think that you can do all of this by yourself. And then having that feeling of failure. So when you go to sleep at night and you put your head down on the pillow, you may not feel so good. You can't go to sleep. You've been up all night now, tossing and turning. What should I do? What I can't do? Maybe you've had 10 cups of coffee during the day and you still get up in the morning and feel so groggy. And even that 10 cups of coffee did nothing. So the health for you, how can you care for someone else if you are not in your good health? What if you don't take care of yourself? So that's where it really all starts. You need to take care of yourself. And then you'll be able to go on and pick those resources. You'll be more logical about it. You'll be more calm. And you need to get some sleep for yourself as well. You'd be surprised how many people are out there who are in your situation that could offer you help. And you'd be surprised how many people you have in your own community that are willing to help you. You'd be surprised if you made that call to your doctor's office and saying that you just really need to get out and all you need is just a couple of hours a week. And even in that particular office, they may be able to find somebody for you. It's just that call. It's just that asking for help rather than saying, I don't know what to do. I can't do this all by myself, and not making those calls. It's okay. You're not alone. Remember, there's 53 million plus people out there in the same situation. How do you know if you have to ask for help? You should know, right? But maybe you don't. Maybe you think that you have everything perfectly planned. Everything is going just as it should. Do you really want to continue your life always at home, not being able to go to the grocery store or planning it, and then worrying about whether you go to the grocery store at home at time? So my answer to you, or my question to you is, do you really have the time? Do you feel comfortable? What else could you be doing? Again, I ask you to go and look into your own neighborhood and see if there's others in your same situation, or make that date to go for a walk. How is that possible? By actually setting the date and time and going for that walk for yourself. It may not be very long. It may be a half an hour. It could be less. It could be 15 minutes. Or it can maybe be just sitting on your porch, of course, socially distancing with a mask, but still talking to that neighbor. It may do you so much good to do something like that, rather than staying home and just looking out the window and saying that there's really no hope. The hopelessness, the despair comes, the depression comes, and then you're going to have to do something for yourself, right? But you might not even then. So again, I ask you to take your time and to realize that you can't put everything on yourself. In Clallam County and Jefferson County, we have some really, really good resources out here. And those resources are, first of all, the family caregiver resources and the coordinators. And I'll have these at the free clinic. There's the Clallam County one. There's West Clallam County and Jefferson counties. And then there's East Jefferson County. If you have a computer, or if you don't, maybe a relative could help you out as well, but you have AARP. Go to their national site. They have a lot of resources and they direct you to the state that you live in, and it's amazing about what they come up with, and actually some medical forms and so forth to use. And some of them are generic and some of them are to your area, so please use them as well. We have a senior hotline. Every county usually has a senior hotline. I know we do. We have a senior center as well that can offer you a direction in your own neighborhood, or at least within this county. And as I talked about hospitals and resources, OMC is a great resource. You just think of going into the hospital. You don't think of someone being in the hospital doing paperwork except the billing department, but that's not true. There are resources there too to set up your paperwork for advance directives to admission to the hospital, who's involved, who isn't involved, what you have to do. And if you couldn't do it, if you weren't a member of the family, then getting in touch with that member of the family. And they'll have forms for you as well. So I think that we don't think about the hospital in that respect until we're maybe in the emergency room or actually coming to pick up someone or deliver, or perhaps not delivering, but bringing someone to the hospital. So I think that's all really important for you.
Okay, well, we're going to come back. I'm going to play a little song right here called Hold Me. I think it's appropriate. Teddy Pendergrass and Whitney Houston.
Okay.
That's okay. But you need...
And you're tuned to KSQM. And if you're just joining us, this is our WOW Working on Wellness Radio Forum. It is sponsored by the Free Clinic here in Sequim. Our guest today is Shelley Stratton. She's a resident of Sequim and an active member of the community, currently a board member of the Dungeness Valley Health and Wellness Center, where she's volunteered as a nurse manager for 9 years. And she's also the owner of Bodhi Tree Yoga Studio. And in her 12 years as a yoga teacher, she's worked with a wide range of people, both in the classroom and developing programs for various specialties. And today she's talking about increasing positive health for caregivers. So, Shelley, tell us a little bit more about care for the caregiver.
The care for the caregiver, a basic is to reaching out to the community and for that caregiver to know when that responsibility that they have is much, much too much for them. And it's challenging for them to see, but they need to know a little bit about themselves and what their limits are. And I think that's important that they realize that, and then they can ask for help. And there are organizations. The first place perhaps to turn would be even the doctor's office or the maybe Jamestown Clinic, whoever you're caregiving for is at, and they have the records, and so they can help that person along, kind of giving them a direction as to where to go and what they'll need to do for a program, for how many office visits, how many times a month, and a list of perhaps medications and how that's going to be decided upon, and if that person feels, the caregiver feels capable of doing that or not. All that information is necessary so that we can continue taking care of our family members, siblings, and friends, and so forth.
What kind of classes can people take to prepare for that type of caregiving?
A basic class actually is a CPR class. I know you think, well, that's the end, but no, it's not. It's just being able to help a person, perhaps if they're choking, and what to do with that. So also if perhaps they're on some medications that may they have shallow breathing, to know what that's about. So a CPR class would cover or help to cover some of those signs and symptoms. And because of COVID, some are no hands-on and mask and so forth. But there are CPR classes out there. You can contact the fire department, also OMC, and those would be the two main ones I would think that would really help you. I know the YMCA also does CPR classes, but I believe they may be on a hold right now or just to their own employees. I'm not quite sure about that one. But it couldn't hurt to ask because they are also connected to the community in many, many ways.
A little earlier, you talked about an advance directive. Can you remind us what that is?
Going to the hospital to know who is going to be your caretaker if something happens to you into the hospital that you don't know exactly what you're getting into as a patient. And you want to make sure that everybody knows what your wishes are. Like, how are you going to want to be in the hospital if something terrible happens to you and your heart stops beating? Do you want them to continue to do life-saving for you or not? And family members need to know about this as well. And who's in charge? Like, who's going to take over for you while you're in the hospital or make those decisions? So if you were unconscious, you'd want to know someone who's going to take care of you and know what you actually wanted in this lifetime.
So does your doctor help you with this? Is it a form that people fill out?
It is a form that people fill out, and the hospital has those forms, and you can just call them, and they'll be more than willing to help. Obviously here in the peninsula, we have OMC, and they're taking care of this county as well, and as Jefferson County, I believe people would be coming here. They may go to Harborview or others, but once you have that paperwork on file, that will be very easy to get from other hospitals as well. So if you went to Seattle and you can say, well, all my paperwork is at OMC, it's not like that would be blocked at all. It would be able to be transferred over so that particular hospital would know what your intentions were.
Okay, well, we're coming up on 29 minutes past the hour, and so what that means for us here at KSQM, it is time for station identification. You're tuned to KSQM 91.5 Sequim, and we're with Shelley Stratton. Tell us a little bit about your background, Shelley, and how you kind of got into this. Tell us a little bit about what you do for the free clinic here in Sequim, and a little bit about your yoga practice.
I've been a volunteer at the Dungeness Health and Wellness Center since my husband passed away in 2008, and I felt that I wanted to give back to the community and share some of my experience there. And as a nurse, I was a retired nurse, or I am a retired nurse now, and I wanted to do some community work. Instead of just talk about it, I really wanted to become active in the community, and that was one way that I could do that. I stayed with the clinic for a long time, and I am still with the clinic, and was asked to be a board member, I believe, last year. And I became that board member, working more on the decisions about the clinic and financial decisions as well. And because of the COVID-19, I'm back on both roles now. I'm volunteering at the clinic during their hours on Mondays and Thursdays, evenings, and I'm still an active board member. In the community, I have also, and I could say I have also influenced many people to walk their talk. We have a great community, a lot of retired people here with backgrounds of various backgrounds in education, medical. It goes on and on. So I've encouraged people to do some volunteering at the schools, and I think that's a great place to start, or in the libraries. We have many, many needs. Due to COVID, it's a little bit different now, but we are adjusting as much as we can. I also started to work at Helen Holler last year, teaching yoga to kids, those elementary kids, to help settle their minds a little bit and do some meditation, and it was a great opportunity. I'm sorry that slipped away, but it's not over yet, and we may start classes or do something perhaps even online. And that's the other thing we can do right now. We can go online. There's many programs online as well, even by YouTube. I mean, it's amazing what you can really learn on YouTube. You can just Google something in, and if you didn't know how to put a screen in, or how to do so many other things that perhaps you never thought you could do. I've learned how to clean a sump pump. I never thought I'd do that. But yeah, I learned that on YouTube. It's very easy too. So I think the more we can learn, the less anxiety we have, and as much as we can volunteer in our community, I think that gets our connection even deeper. So when situations happen to us, we have a lot of resources to turn to as well.
Okay, well, we're going to play September Song. This is a song that you requested. And then we're going to come back, and I'd like to hear more about your yoga practice and how people can use yoga and what you teach as a way of calming and that kind of thing. So here's September Song. KSQM 91.5. Well, if you're just joining us, we are doing the WOW Working on Wellness Forum with Shelley Stratton, RN. We'll come back. She's going to be talking about care for the caregiver. She's going to tell us a little bit about how she uses yoga in her practice to kind of calm people. But right now, we've got the senior report, and I'll be right back with Shelley.
The KSQM Afternoon Senior Report is made possible through the support of Sherwood Assisted Living.
This is the KSQM Senior Report for Wednesday, or clallam.net/elections. The Senior Report is a service of the KSQM News Center. And I'm Olive Martini, joined by RN Shelley Stratton, also the owner of Bodhi Tree Yoga Studio. She is a volunteer at Dungeness Health and Wellness Center, Sequim's free clinic. And Shelley's been talking about increasing positive health outcomes for caregivers. Shelley, tell us a little bit about your yoga practice and how people can use that kind of meditation to kind of calm themselves when things are getting kind of crazy when they're trying to help out others.
I've been practicing yoga for a very long time, since my early 20s, and I've worked at several facilities here in the Sequim area as well. I started practicing or teaching in 2008. And I've developed a studio, Bodhi Tree Yoga Studio, at the lower part of Sunland. Beautiful little place. And I am very happy to be there and bring so many people into studio. Yoga is just a place to start with. A lot of people come just for the physical, always thinking that, just if I had a little bit more stretch, it would be really good. There's so much more to that than that in yoga. It's the stability and the strength, and stretching, that comes later, that flexibility. And it's just a wonderful practice to have. It really is calming to the mind. The most important part of yoga, more than the physical aspect, is the breathing and the working with the mind, because it calms us down. It allows us to slow down. We work very fast all the time in our mind, never rest. You know that many, many times when you put your head on the pillow and you can't go to sleep. There's so much going on in our mind. It's constant, and yoga helps us to calm down, to connect with what's happening, and also connecting with the breath, which helps slow us down. We have an awareness. Sometimes we don't even know we're breathing. Of course you're breathing, because if you weren't breathing, you wouldn't be alive, and we know that. But we don't pay attention too much to our breath because it happens just automatically. And anything that happens on a regular basis like that, we just don't pay attention to. I don't know if that's a good thing to say on a regular basis. We hope we're breathing on a regular basis. But it just is something that we just put aside. We're just not knowing about it. So yoga is the part of knowing a little bit more about ourselves, not only our body, but our mind, our spirit, joining those together. And it gives us such a sense of calming. And so in my studio, I have different classes, several classes, which go accordingly to how people are doing that day. I don't really set out and say, well, this is what we're going to do, without looking at that class and saying, that's not going to work today. Everybody's not in that kind of mode. Especially recently, I've noticed that people are really coming to class because they feel more anxious of our world situation, what's going on, in doubt, always in doubt. And the sense of community, of coming with like minds, a sense of being able to breathe, and just giving yourself that hour to do so, it just leaves people feeling so well. And they're able to do so much more during the day, and able to go home to be with their families in a good way. I think yoga is so important in so many aspects. I'd like to see everybody in the world do yoga. Then I think, I don't know, I'd like to see people in government do yoga. So there's my sarcasm for the day. I'd like to see everybody in government do yoga too. I think we would have a wonderful way of communicating with one another. I think calmness is so important in our lives. I think it's more widespread than it ever was before, and I am very, very grateful for that. And I'm grateful to still be teaching. I feel really good about that.
Well, if you're just joining us, this is our Working on Wellness Forum. We're joined by Shelley Stratton, RN, and also owner of Bodhi Tree Yoga Studio.
Right.
Yes, and Shelley was talking about, how she wanted to take some time to kind of go through a breathing exercise so that people would know how to calm themselves when things are overwhelming. So take it away, Shelley.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say, too, that when we're caught in the trap of constantly going on with our minds, we feel overburdened by taking care of others or not having any solutions. Not everything goes perfect for us every day. If it did, we would not really appreciate our lives that much, would we, if everything was always just a straight line? So as we calm down, we do really have the answers within us. And that's what I'd like to express to you mostly, is that you do have the answers deep within you. You just need to take the time. You need to take the time to just settle down to take a few extra breaths during the day for yourself, because the answers are out there for you, and the community is here for you as well. And so we just need to take that time. And it's so important. I know I'm repeating, but I know that you understand, and I want you to understand that you have the ability inside, intuitively, to know what to do. If you're driving, that's good, but I'd like you to pull over if you're going to do this exercise with me so you don't hit anybody. If you're at home, I'd like you to find just a nice comfortable chair, or just sit upright in your chair. I'd like your back to be nice and tall. And your feet can be on the floor, on your floor, or if you'd like to sit cross-legged, you can, and be off a chair. And I just would like you to be comfortable. I'd like you to feel really comfortable. And as you're being comfortable, I'd just like you to just take a deep breath in, and then maybe let out a sigh. Just let out a sigh. Just like that. Just like that. Yes. And just
I'm
do
following
that again.
along.
And then do that again. Just breathe in deeply and just let out that sigh. You may not even realize that you've been walking around with your shoulders attached to your ears. Most of us don't. And when the weather gets colder, those shoulders seem to come up more and attach to our ears, no matter what we wear, what hats or what scarves we have around us. So be aware of that. Cooler weather does that, but you may be doing that all the time. So I'd like you just again, sit very tall, straighten out that spine. You have a beautiful spine. Has a lot of good energy in it. It's really nice and tall. It allows everything to go up and down so perfectly well. We don't want to sit slouched, kinked over. It's just like that garden hose. If it has a kink in it, it's not going to get that water out to every part of your garden. And some plants will then not flourish as well. So sitting nice and tall, allowing yourself to feel that strength that you have deep within you, knowing inside that you are a very strong and wonderful person, and that you try to do the best you can do every day. And then if you'd like, you can just slowly just breathe in a little bit deeper, and then let your breath out. See if you can breathe just a little bit deeper. Sometimes we just breathe with the upper portion of our body, or thinking our heart and our lungs are just right there, and it's just in and out, in and out. And I'd like you to slow that down for just a moment and just take in deeper breaths. And as you take in deeper breaths, notice how your spine gets real tall and how you feel. And then as you exhale, just releasing that breath. You don't have to go down and all the way, meaning sitting down all the way and crunching down. You can still stay tall and allow your breath to stay with you and just be that tall, tall pillar of strength, because you are. And you may not feel like it sometimes, but inside you know that you are, and that everything is going to be okay. You know that you have that intuitiveness inside you to take care of others and yourself. But you do sometimes have to ask for help, and it's really going to be okay if you do. You'll make that other person feel really grateful that you could ask for help. And as you breathe in and as you breathe out, if you'd like to close your eyes, you can. If you prefer not to, that's okay too. And just focus on that breath, how it goes in and how it goes out. It's just almost like you can create the sounds of the ocean a little bit. And just the breath comes in, rolling in, and then it rolls back out. So just picture that, rolling in and rolling back out. And notice how your shoulders have come down and how things in your body are starting to slow down. And just focus on that breath. Don't think about what you're going to do next or what's on the agenda at 3 o'clock. Don't worry about that. It'll come. It'll come. So just breathe in and breathe out. Focus on that breath. Keep focusing on that breath. And that'll help you. That helps you calm you down. It'll help calm you down. Yeah, there's thoughts. They'll come and they'll go. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. It's all right. And if you've never done this before, it's okay too. And if you've done it lots of times, well, I'm very, very happy that you have done that. And keep going. Just breathe in and breathe out. Take another deep breath in and breathe out. Notice how the shoulders have become softer. Notice that perhaps your hands, they're folded a little bit, but how the fingers have unwound. You no longer have a fist in your hands. And the soles of your feet feel really grounded, and you feel taller. And as you breathe in again, you feel very, very tall. And you also notice that you're not clenched anymore. Your teeth aren't clenching together. And just you can exhale and bring that breath all the way down. If you'd like, you can even bring one hand onto your belly, or maybe both hands, and feel the breath from way down here now. You're getting so good at this, so bring the breath way down. Start it down here, and then bring that breath up to your rib cage, and to your chest and heart. Oh, see if you could go up just a little bit further to the throat area. And then just let it come down. Let it swirl like that leaf coming off of a tree. So gently, so beautifully, so subtle. And let it come back down, 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 down to the belly. Take a little pause here. And then bring that breath all the way back up. Can you do that a few times? Can you do that a few times? Bring it up, bring that breath all the way up to the throat. And then exhale that breath back down. Feel it. Yeah, everything seems to be just, so softer. So maybe a little bit slower for you. Maybe something you've been longing for, just to slow it down. Maybe before you go to bed tonight, you can practice this. Even if you're lying down, you can practice this. Maybe you'll make note to do that. Maybe. Taking care of oneself, breathing in and breathing out. Very important to take care of oneself, to have that respect for yourself.
Okay, well, I'm all relaxed. I don't know about everybody else. So I'm going to give you a choice. Would you like to hear the 101 Strings, Mykonos Sunset, or should we kick it up with the Beach Boys? Help me, Rhonda.
I like a sunset.
Okay, that's what we will play. You're listening to KSQM 91.5. And if you're just joining us, we're just finishing up our Working on Wellness Forum presented by the Dungeness Valley Health and Wellness Clinic. And we've been talking with Shelley Stratton, who is an RN and a certified yoga teacher. If you missed it, you missed it because we just went through a wonderful breathing exercise and Shelley kind of showed us how to calm down and really listen to our bodies. She's talking today about increasing positive health for caregivers. Shelley, we've got about another 5 minutes. Tell people where they can find this information. We're going to send them to the website for the free clinic. All the information that you've been talking about, please tell us where they can find that.
You can find all the information that I talked about today and more at the Dungeness Health and Wellness Center's website. I've just given all that information to them so they can have that there for you and give that to you. Also, all the resources we talked about, such as the college, OMC, please do use them as your resource. They're very valuable. Also, any CPR classes that you may be interested in taking, please call a fireman today in OMC and ask them where you can do those type of classes. There's always something for you, but I do want you to remember that it's most important. It's your responsibility. It always comes down to ourselves. As much as you don't like to hear that sometimes, it's like we're little kids. It's not my fault. It's your fault. It's not my fault. We can go on and on like that. You can join me in for my family dinner tonight and you would hear that. But in the reality is we all take responsibility for ourselves, and you must do that as a caregiver. You must do that as a family so that this isn't a crisis for you.
Well, I think the best information that you gave us today was if you're a caregiver for someone, you can get an awful lot of help from the person that you're caring for. You can get an awful lot of help from their doctor.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I have a client at my studio, and that's what she ended up doing because she had a lot of people lined up, and unfortunately, there was a lot of people who couldn't do it at the last minute, which was very stressful. and very disappointing to a certain extent. But she turned around, didn't give up, and called her doctor's office, and they lined her up with two great people. So yes, there is help out there. So please,
There
don't
are
give up.
resources.
Yes, many. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Shelley, for joining us. WOW, Working on Wellness, is a health education program of the Dungeness Valley Health and Wellness Clinic, Sequim's free clinic. The clinic provides basic urgent care and chronic health care services to the uninsured in our community. The basic urgent care clinic is open to patients on Monday and Thursday evenings, beginning at 5 p.m., and more information is available on their website at sequimfreeclinic.org. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll have another wellness forum as long as we're shut down with the COVID. Another wellness forum next month, the today's Wednesday, second Wednesday of the month. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.
You're tuned to KSQM 91.5 Sequim.